It's a pleasure to be here with you. Pleasure to be back in Brazil, my home away from home. I've been to Brazil now. This is time number 21. I counted 21 times to Brazil. I love being here in Brazil, so it's a great pleasure to be with you. My task, as I understood it, was to try to address the issue of adoption of sustainability and technology amongst farmers and agriculture in general, and the misalignment of incentives. These were the things that I was asked to try to think about how to address. And I'm not going to address them like a professor might normally do it. Well, that's probably not true because I am a professor, so I'm probably going to do some of that. But today I am the executive director of Dial Ventures. At Dial Ventures, we're a startup studio. What do we do in our startup studio? We build from scratch startup companies. So the problem you're addressing of how do we get better farmer and agribusiness adoption of technology, and in this case, sustainable technologies, I don't think about this, I do it. I try to do it, right? So this is a real problem for us that I have to address in my daily activities that I have to do these days in what we call Dial Ventures. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what it is we do in Dial Ventures and how we try to address these issues. And I'm going to do that in a way that shows you an example of how we've built one of our startup companies specifically focused on exactly the idea of how do we adopt sustainable technologies. So sustainability first, the thing about sustainability is that sustainability has to be profitable, which is why this session says as part of it, incentive misalignment. This is part of the challenge. Adopting sustainability for sustainability's sake, adopting regenerative agriculture for regenerative agriculture's sake doesn't work. It has to have incentive alignment in order to have adoption. That's the first and foremost thing that we have to understand. Profitability is part of sustainability. If it's not profitable, it's not sustainable, you won't get adoption. Right? And I try to tell everybody this, including my good friends at Nestle, who motivated what I'm about to talk about here and the problem that we try to solve when Nestle came to us and said, we're not getting enough adoption of regenerative agriculture. I said, because it's not profitable for the farmer. And until we do that, they're not going to adopt it. Right? And so this is a really important thing, is this idea of profitability. And that nature of innovation then, how do we innovate, not just innovate the technologies of sustainability, but how do we think about innovating the business models that allow those technologies to be adopted? This is the fundamental problem, I think, of many of us at the university level. We do a very good job of inventing technologies. We can't figure out how to commercialize them because we don't know how to think about how to innovate the business models. And that's where, when you bring those three things together, you get to a possibility to create a competitive advantage. And that's what we try to focus on in Dial Ventures, is to bring these things together. So one of the things I like to say to my audience is, in short term, you have to be careful about innovation and talking about it as if it's innovation theater, which we do way too much of across this entire industry, innovation theater, right? We don't want to do innovation theater in what we do in Dial Ventures. We're trying to create real things, real companies that make real difference in the world. How do we do that? Very simple model, but we follow this model and we repeat this model over and over and over with consistency. First of all, you have to identify the pain points, discover the industry's pain points and opportunity areas. Wait, make sure you're paying attention to me. That's where we start. We did not start, will not start, do not start from, we have a technology. If we could just figure out what the problem was, that we could get people to buy our technology. This is wrong-headed, and it's what leads to innovation theater. Creating technologies that don't solve a problem. We have to start from what is the problem. And that's where we start from. Identify the problem first. Then we're going to experiment. We're going to build MVPs. We're going to test solutions rapidly with actual customers to see if they actually have the need that they expressed to us they had for this type of solution. If we can validate that we have a solution, then we'll prove that out commercially. Do we have a business model associated with it? Is it technically viable? Can it be scaled? And then if it can be scaled, we'll invest in it and we'll scale that business up and turn it into a business model. So this 4-step simple process, identify, experiment, validate, scale, and do that repetitively. This is what we do in Dial Ventures to create technologies that people will adopt. So how do we do this in sustainability? Well, when you think about the place we start is in identifying the discovery points. How do we do that? We start from deep research. So here was our climate smart agri-food opportunities research that we did. This is a now 580-page research report that was put together. Nobody wants to read 580 pages, but the way we worked on this is to think about what are the jobs to be done associated with adopting regenerative agriculture in this case, or what we called at the time climate smart agri-food opportunities. How do we think about what those jobs are? And we call them meta jobs, the bigger picture of the bigger picture industry jobs. We identified that with the industry as these 5 areas. Enhancing agricultural resilience is what it should be about, a job that we need to do. Optimizing resource management is a job we need to do. Environmental stewardship is a job we need to do. Leveraging data and knowledge is a job that we need to do. And enabling policy and finance to be able to finance the activities that we do in this regenerative agriculture space. These are the 5 meta jobs that we needed to be able to work from. Those meta jobs are the places we start. We're going to start here, and we're going to start with the industry talking about, okay, now what are the specific jobs to be done? And when we talk about industry, what do we mean? We mean all players in the industry, from food manufacturers to industry conveners to co-ops and agricultural retailers to input manufacturers, product and services folks, farm production people, handling and processing, all of the stages of the chain. We bring them all together. We're bringing the industry together to talk about, okay, if these are the issues of climate smart agriculture and the meta jobs to be done, what specifically are the jobs you need to do in your level of the business in order to be able to make this happen? We have a 9,000 subject matter experts that we can reach out to at any moment and have them sit with us and visit with us about the jobs they need to do in their business. Through that process of our research and that discovery process with the industry and our meta jobs across the whole industry, 90 jobs to be done were identified. 90 possible jobs to be done. Problems, potential areas where you can think about how do we get to a solution that somebody can adopt that would move the needle on climate smart agriculture, okay? We use frameworks that many of you might be familiar with. We think about, I keep talking about jobs to be done, right? We use this value proposition canvas to think about this. We bring 70 of those subject matter experts together in a workshop. And in that workshop, we have 4 innovation fellows working with us to try to design these problems and then the ideas. And they work with us to take our industry folks through these activities. And here you can see what were identified in that workshop. What were some customer jobs that needed to be done? We needed to accurately assess the practice impacts. So farmers were telling us, we don't know which regenerative practices to adopt because we don't know which ones really have what kind of impact they have. And we talked to other experts in the industry and they all say, yes, we don't know either what the impacts are. Yet our good friends at Nestle said, we don't understand why we can't get more people to adopt regenerative practices. And we're like, because they don't know what the outcomes are going to be. They're telling us this. They don't know exactly what those outcomes are going to be. How do we determine that piece of it? And predicting those outcomes particularly well. Some pains they have, no clear demand signals. Exactly who's going to pay for this stuff if I'm going to adopt it? By the way, it's expensive to adopt. There's technology adoption that has to come with it. I got to know if somebody's going to pay for this. What if I sell less stuff? What if my yields go down as I adopt these practices? Which, by the way, they do in the short run often go down, and that causes a lot of problems for them. What about particular gains? Well, we learned that parts of the industry, for example, the ag retail industry, said this could be a potential differentiator for us in the marketplace as being the expert, the trusted expert to help you adopt regenerative practices. We think there's some way to differentiate there. But one of the problems we have is that our business model is not very good because when we adopt those sort of practices, we might sell less chemicals and less fertilizer, and that's hard for our business model, right? So how do we manage those sort of activities, okay? This was all done by the industry. The industry telling us, these are the jobs we're trying to get done, these are the problems that we have that give us a chance to think about what solutions we might follow. Now, we think about those solutions not from a technology perspective necessarily. We think about it in our area around software, digital technologies. We think about digital technologies being force multipliers. How do we use digital technology to multiply the impact of adoption of some sort of solutions, if you will, right? So we think about them from a B2B SaaS perspective. And if you think about it in this area, you can think about, look, we can use regenerative agriculture for predictive modeling platforms. Boy, wouldn't Nestle like to know exactly how many acres of regenerative wheat are being grown in the central plains of the United States that they need to use for their input in their products? They would love to know what that is and how it's changing over time, right? Even within a crop season, for example. We need integrated data systems because if we're going to do regenerative agriculture, we have to prove it. Everybody in here has heard this many times today. We have to have transparency. Well, that means we've got to share that data across the system. We need precision advisory tools that can get us precise activities to be able to grow that crop at the highest productivity levels. We need input optimization in that process so that we can be more profitable. We need real-time decision support. We need supply chain coordination tools. These are all digital-based tools that are enablers to get the job done that we're trying to get done. One of the things that I think is really important for us to continue to think about when we think about technologies, I know we're going to talk about AI here in a little while. AI is great. I think it's got real implications for the industry. But don't make no mistake, it's a tool. It's not a solution. It's an enabler. It's not a solution, right? These things are enablers. We've understood that from the start. Software will not make food. Not in my lifetime. I will not be eating zeros and ones. I'm going to be eating real food, I hope, in my lifetime. So digital is only an enabler. So you have to think about what's the job that you're trying to enable with these digital solutions, and that's how we had to think about this. So let me get to, so what came of this? So this was a 6-month process because we do this repetitively in 6 months. In that 6-month process, we had 3 solutions that we came up with, made 3 pitches for startup companies. We have an investment group that sits on the side. That investment group evaluates each of our ideas that we have. They evaluated all 3 of them. They made a $1 million investment in this company called Windrow. What does Windrow do? It's solving a particular problem. The problem is that the farmers are overwhelmed by the complexity of offers that exist to adopt things associated with regenerative agriculture. ADM has a program. Cargill has a program. Nestle has a program. Everybody has a program. The government has programs. There's all these programs. Which ones can I qualify for? Which ones do I qualify for? Which ones would make me make promises I can't keep? How much data do I have to give up in the process? It's all so complex, I can't figure out what I should be doing with it. And there was another job. Retailers, who are the trusted experts to work with the farmer in their decision-making in these spaces, particularly in the U.S., they're very strong influencers over that decision-making process, lacked the incentives and the resources to actually be able to get this done. So we would learn, for example, from one of our customers now for Windrow. They said, look, we are doing this for our farmers because we're a farmer-owned cooperative. We're doing this for our farmers. We're helping them. We're trying to gather what are all the potential programs that are out there. What's the data that's needed for doing that? We'll put your data together. We'll help you get the applications together to apply for these things. We'll do this. They're spending 7 full-time employees doing only that work with farmers, and their maximum capacity was 200,000 acres. That's all they would ever be able to do with those, and they don't get paid. They got no money from it. They're just doing it as a service. That, my friends, is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. We've got to solve the problem. How do you solve that problem of that not being sustainable the way it is? Well, we created a solution. We have a smart search engine that uses AI to find all of the possible programs that are out there for a given region where those farmers live. We use AI matching and automated application services. So AI matching is looking at each of the farms that exist. We can start from publicly available data on those farms, but as the cooperative is working with those farmers and getting more of their data together, the more refined the matching system becomes. And we can match the farmer and their practices and their ability to adopt new practices with the possible programs that are out there, and then write the application for them. tell them what the probability is that that application will be accepted into the process. And in the process, collect the data and information that's needed for each one of those programs that we match them with, and we are reducing the time of the ag retailer in that process by 75%. The amount of time they spend with each individual farmer on these activities now is reduced by 75%. And then the business model. How do we get a business model together that would allow this to be adopted, these solutions by Windrow to be adopted? The farmer gets the money from the applicant, from the services, from Nestle, pays the premiums for these things to happen, right? The money comes to the farmer. But when it comes to the farmer, first, a fee is taken from that money. 5% to the company, Windrow, and 5% to the ag retailer who does the work associated with it. But that's not a fee that's charged to the farmer. Of course it is in the end, right? But it's only after the money's been received. So the farmer gets 90% of the money and they take their piece off of it. Now we're not charging up front for these activities. We're taking the risks with them. If you get paid, we get paid. If you don't get paid, we don't get paid. That's the incentive alignment that we've asked about how do you get technology adoption to happen. Our process in Dial Ventures is designed in this way. Understand what the problem is. Find solutions for that problem. Understand the correct go-to-market strategy. By the way, if we'd have tried and go sell Windrow to farmers, it would never work. But doing it through the agricultural cooperatives in the United States and the ag retailers in the United States who already have an army of people facing the farmer every day and are their trusted advisor is a fantastic way to do a go-to-market strategy and then innovate the business model in a way that allows everybody to share in the incentives of the success that can come from that. This is how we think you get to adoption of ag technologies and sustainable technologies in the future. Thank you.
We're a little over time, Allan, but I still want to ask you a question. Keep here standing.
You told me I only had 5 minutes. I thought it was 5 minutes per slide.
You spend all your time just for no way. So, first of all, what is the change in mindset from a professor to some sort of a incubator and venture, I would say, specialist in this? I mean, is there a mindset change, and do you think, I mean, a lot of professors should go through that process in order to have that moment of enlightenment with the real world?
I don't recommend it. Actually, I feel very fortunate to have been able to do this. As you know this, I've been in ag business strategy for all of my career, and I've spent time working with all of the folks, great folks that are up here and out there all around the world. It gave me a great chance to see business and think about strategy. But I realized that sometimes you don't want to think about it anymore. You actually want to see if you can do it. And I got very fortunate that Purdue was willing to allow me the opportunity to try this and say, can we go and build these companies using the strategies and the things that we've talked about and taught and thought for a long time. So it does take a change in mindset and an ability to take on a risk that says, are you willing to take on a risk? So for the academics in the audience, if you are not tenured full professor yet, I don't recommend it. It's a bad idea because if it doesn't work, it might not work out for you. I'm tenured and full professor, which means at Purdue it's really hard for me to get fired. And so you've got an opportunity to take a risk and see if that will work for you. But the other thing I would tell you is that don't kid yourself. I'm in the real world. So I'm having to do fundraising, right? And I'm now, we finished our first fund, $20 million fund has been fully deployed. I'm now out fundraising for a $24 million fund. And here's what I'll tell you about that. If you're a professor thinking you want to do this, that word starts with the letters F-U-N. And there's a word I could think of with FU, and fun would not be the word I'd think about when it relates to fundraising, because when you're putting it on the line and trying to figure out how you're going to create real value that people want to pay for, it's very difficult. But it's allowed me the opportunity to figure out how things happen in the real world.
Thank you so much, Professor Allan Gray.
Yep.